Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're going to do a little bit of an overview of DOCOVA. So if you are coming here from the notes and Domino migration video, this is to help you get a better idea of DOCOVA. Now, this video is just a PowerPoint presentation at this time. DOCOVA is very vast in its functionality. This is just to give you a taste of what DOCOVA can offer for you. But really, we encourage you to get in touch with us so that we can just chat for even 15 minutes or 30 minutes and get an idea of your requirements on different things so that we can talk to you more about what you possibly could use DOCOVA for, or what you need, what you require, and demonstrate specific things that you might require and how to solve your problems, okay? So let's get to this overview. DOCOVA is a low-code application development platform, helps companies develop custom apps fast and cost-effectively. That is the promise of low-code, no-code solutions. We enable citizen developers, but we work with IT so that you can balance how you do that. A citizen developer, if you don't know, is like a business user that IT, for example, gives trains and give them access to develop applications on the DOCOVA platform. It's a way for companies to sort of leverage more resources for creating applications, so that sometimes the IT is very busy and don't have the resources to meet all the application requests from users. And so, depending on your IT department, you can leverage people who are keeners to super users to prototype or create applications in DOCOVA. It's that easy. And DOCOVA create bespoke apps that don't exist off the shelf. So that is, all companies before would have to develop their own applications, but that was time consuming and costly, and hence the rise of off-the-shelf applications. For a subscription, you get going quickly and so on. But now with low code, the ability to create your own bespoke applications quickly and cost effectively and simply is becoming more and more powerful. And so it makes sense now to start bringing it back in-house and developing your own applications. So are you in need of a business application that you can't buy off the shelf? That is, especially if you came from a Notes and Domino world, there are so many applications that companies could use or could create that simply just don't exist off the shelf, because it's just what this business needs to do what they need. And so we almost are always developing applications for our customers that are custom for those customers. Off-the-shelf applications are paying for apps with features you don't need. So a lot of times you'll buy an off-the-shelf app that has features you'll never use, right? Because of course they're trying to hit a huge breadth of customers, and so you might only use a sliver of what their application, so that's what you're paying for. Or you're paying for apps that don't have the features that you actually need. We've put something like invoice processing into several companies over the years, and every company needs invoice processing, but no two companies do it the same. And so, often it doesn't matter if you buy an off-the-shelf application. There might be something about your business environment that you need to be added, and so you go to the vendor, and often they either won't make the change for you, it's expensive, or time-consuming to make the change for you. Or you're paying for applications that have the same functionality. So for example, say you subscribed to a CRM application and you also subscribed to a project management application. I use this example all the time, where in the CRM you could track expenses. And in your project management application, maybe you can track expenses as well against the project. And so now you have two separate applications that you're paying for, where users are tracking their expenses in both of those environments. Maybe people are also submitting spreadsheets. And so you have this problem of now all this expense information all in different places, and it's harder to manage. So in something like DOCOVA, you can now start consolidating that down to applications and creating applications that do just what you need, or leveraging applications that we've done or our business partners have done in order to do that. And then, the applications that we have in our store, you can start with those, like an expense tracker that we have in there. And then you can modify it easily to do what you need to do. So you don't have to wait for vendors to do it. You can do it yourself. And so the point is one subscription for all your business applications with DOCOVA. And that's kind of the goal. Okay, DOCOVA Apps. So what is a DOCOVA app? You can build applications that start with pre-built apps and templates in our store for sales, marketing, support, tech support, human resources, accounting and operations like ERP, custom solutions, analytics, quality management, right? So example applications that are in the store, quality management apps, policies and procedures, do your own CRM. We have customers that do their own CRM. We do our own CRM. ERP systems, and so forth. It's endless the number of applications that you could use. And the good thing is that it's all on the same platform. They're all integratable. You can open, a view of information from a different application in this application very easily. And so there's a lot of opportunities for integrating them and so on. Okay, SaaS on premises. So DOCOVA can run in any cloud environment or on premises. Some customers just want to run for security reasons on their own machines. And DOCOVA has its own cloud. So we have a DOCOVA cloud. In the cloud, what we've done is there's one subscription and you get 24/7/365 support. There's performance monitoring that goes with that, disk-based monitoring. So we track and make sure that your system is running smoothly. We increase disk space at no additional cost if you need it. We automate the backups, so the backups run hourly, daily, and weekly. And we have two options. One is for encryption if you need that, and one is high availability options. So we try to make it easy for you in that we just say it's one subscription, but you get everything. We don't nickel and dime you like a little bit for this and it costs a little bit for that and a little bit for this, a little bit for that. The only additional options are if you wanted to encrypt it, then there's an encryption option. And if you need like super high availability options, then there's a cost associated with that. Now, using DOCOVA in your own environment, if you're using AWS, Azure, some other managed hosting provider, or on your own in-house servers, as I mentioned before, all are possible with DOCOVA, no trouble. DOCOVA Forge. Okay, so DOCOVA is proprietary, so we get asked this all the time. People are like, oh, we don't want another proprietary system, and then they move to Microsoft, which is all proprietary. Proprietary code, but we try to give you or enable you to do whatever you would want to do with open source in your organization, for example. So it is open, but it's not open source, DOCOVA, right? So customers and developers can make changes to the source, and we will try to help you with those changes. So if you contact us, say we're thinking about making these changes to the core, if you're skilled enough to do that, and we'll help you make those changes. DOCOVA maintains upgrading its open source components, so PHP and stuff. So we monitor upgrades to the software that we use to make sure that if there's any security patches or anything like that that are published, that we apply them for our customers and in our cloud in a timely manner. We can't support source changes by the customers, but we can help you try to put those in smoothly, just like open source, right? The whole point is to try to make it as flexible as you need so that it's like open source, even though it's not. The only restrictions are that you can't resell DOCOVA or your custom changes in there. You can share them. And DOCOVA reserves the right to incorporate any of the changes that customers might make. So some customer might decide that, this core change is something they need, and we say, hey, that's a great idea, and so we reserve the right to incorporate that, which is not to say that if you develop an application and put it in our store is absolutely made so that our customers or our business partners can create applications, put them into our store, and sell them in our store. And we can talk more about that and be exposed. So everybody who has an instance of DOCOVA gets to see all the applications that are in there, okay? And DOCOVA Forge, of course, it's just our community where developers can share source, modifications, apps that they've done if they don't want to try to sell them in the App Store. You can also put them in the App Store for free and so on. So we're trying to develop this whole community, which is good for us, which is good for you. Okay, the Workspace. DOCOVA is built on this Workspace platform. So, you have all of your, supporting architecture for it. But we have a place where you can manage your own avatar, your picture, manage your own language. So I think we have 5 languages in there right now. You can choose your number formats. So North American number formats aren't necessarily what somebody wants to see in Europe. And for time, manage all your applications and widgets, create apps. All the apps that you have access to are available to you, searchable. So you search apps to find out what's there and so on. You can export apps, make copies of apps, update the design of apps. There's a whole administration interface for managing the system. There's a managed dashboard for like a project management office, for example, that you can create widgets like charts and information and set access control to them and distribute them across your organization. So there's a whole pile of things like that you can create or leverage system widgets and create custom widgets. There's the App Store, as I talked about. This is where we distribute our user documentation, our developer and admin documentation. So when we update the store with the latest and greatest. So it's available all the time to all of our customers. Business partners and customers too can sell apps through the store. We distribute example applications through the App Store too. So right now, I think there's 24. I could be wrong on that, or maybe there's 18. I can't remember. But there's several applications that you can just use and start modifying to use for yourself. Customers can buy applications out of the store easily. We keep track of what you've purchased and so on. And the apps are easily installed on your system. So there's an App Store app in your instance of DOCOVA. It'll list all the applications. You pick one, click install, and it'll install the thing. And typically you have a grace period to check out the application, to try it out, make modifications to it. And if you make mods and screw it up or something like that because you're just learning it or whatever, it's easy to delete it and install it again. And you have this time that you can just try the application out and see if it's for you. App Builder. So there's DOCOVA's got an integrated drag and drop IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment. It's all browser based. It's all in the same instance. And it's a full IDE that I say doesn't handcuff developers. So, we here at DOCOVA DLI, we have been developing custom applications, business applications for our customers for over 20 years. We know what it's like to be using a system and then get constrained by its capabilities. We are very aware of that and have developed an IDE that's very open, should be able to develop pretty much anything that you want. And I'm going to talk about an example of that down below. So drag and drop design elements. So, and you know what, I'd say the thing about our design elements is that they're built out of our experience of 20 years of custom development, in that it's not just about drop down fields and stuff like that. There's more to those fields in terms of where they get the data and in terms of how they're integrated with other fields on the form and so on. And so truly, you really won't see how great some application development interfaces are for developing your applications until you get into those nitty-gritty details that are hard to achieve, right? And what we're trying to get to is the ability for you to put together applications really easy and have that power built in, point and click, drag and drop, so that you can get to the core of what your application is supposed to achieve. Right, there's so much time spent around the interface and then really the core functionality of your app is really the small piece, right? But so much time is spent, building everything else. And so we try to eliminate that so that you can focus on what's important about the application. No need to deal with database applications, database tables. So all the table structure and stuff for your applications that's built in the back end, there's no need for you to interact with that at all. You don't have to pre-build anything. Users just start creating their applications. We handle all that stuff in the background. DOCOVA has an abstraction layer which allows us to run on many different types of database environments. We can run on Windows servers or Linux servers, and we have inline element coding, so you can reveal codes. So we kind of like the ability to, so you could create all your CSS or all your JS in one file. You can still do that in DOCOVA if that's your preference. But you can also target specific elements on your forms or in your views and write code behind them, either using our formula language or using JavaScript or using our API. You can develop behind those things. And then sometimes it's like, well, how do I find all that code? When you come to a form or something, you've got all this code kind of hidden behind the elements that you've put on that form. You can easily reveal where all of your code is so that you can find out not only the functionality of the form or the view or whatever you're looking at, but also, just find and update things very quickly. Now, add CSS in JS, so you can have your own CSS in JS. Now, we have an application and it's in the store, and it's a game called Sudoku, which you might be familiar with. It's just an example application where we created the application shell in DOCOVA, and maybe I'll go through that process in a video and link it below. But what that is an example of is going out and finding like an open source Sudoku game, copying the CSS, the HTML, and the JavaScript, and just pasting it into a DOCOVA application. So creating a CSS file and including it in the app, and a JS file, including it in the app, and then pasting the HTML. So you could just see that, you know what, you could use your own, you could go out and find your own, you can use DOCOVA's ID, or you can, it's just to show you that you're not handcuffed and you can just put things together easily. And it's very flexible. Okay, application elements. Okay, so there's database access control, custom open features for applications. So you can develop applications that look a certain way for one group of people versus another group of people based on groups that they're in, based on roles that they're in. You could show documents or form information screens. You can show as much or as little that you want to different groups or different roles. Based on what they want. So all that kind of functionality exists. There's different deployment features. So the ability, for example, to develop in a development environment, then push to a user acceptance testing environment, and then to a production environment is all possible, depending on how you might have that set up in your environment. And so, you can make changes in development and then push them to testing, test them in development, and then push them very easily into the production server. And so it makes it very easy and quick and efficient to make changes and get those changes deployed. And data too. Okay. Forms, reveal code to talk about. There's subforms, authors, readers, fields, views, embedded views, data islands, business analytics, gauges for Internet of Things. Okay, so we have gauges that you can use, and IoT. So check for links below to this stuff. We'll have separate videos. The IoT stuff is pretty cool in that, a lot of times if you're going to use IoT, you need some sort of transaction hub that is a communication between an application like DOCOVA and a device out there, like a temperature gauge or whatever. So check out the IoT videos for more information on that. And if you're a nerdo, just cool to check it out. Stuff that you can play around with yourself. Okay? Menus, layouts, so how you lay out your applications, unlimited and embedded layouts and so on, agents. So agents perform, an action, a coded action, and they can be scheduled to run at 1 o'clock in the morning, 6 in the morning, all kinds of things like that. Okay, workflow, drag and drop workflow. You can program events, messaging, escalation, backtracking. So for example, say somebody goes through a review process on, or here is an easier example, is say somebody has an expense report and they submit it to be approved. And maybe it has to go through 2 people to get approved. And the one person says, yeah, I like that, and they approve it. And then it comes to the next person, they go, hey, wait a minute, I can't approve this because you're missing something. So that person can choose to decline it back to the person before them or back to the beginning or whatever step in the process that you enable. And so it's not all or nothing. It's not either you approve it or you decline it and it's dead, right? You can choose to decline something and it dies, or decline it back to the beginning, or decline it back to any of the steps in between, for example, right? And escalation. If somebody doesn't approve something within 2 or 3 days, maybe you want to get on them and say, hey, you know, what are you doing? You know, messaging at any point to anybody as part of that workflow or that business process that you want to alert to something happening, you know, architectural diagrams being approved or reviewed and so on. You can see where the bottlenecks are and so on. Now, there's a lot of workflow interfaces out there, and they typically give you a typical workflow set of symbols to use for decisions and so on. But we have our own way of thinking about workflow, in that we've been through document management and document lifecycle management and records management, and we've developed all kinds of workflow over the last 2 decades plus. So we understand what's needed typically in business process applications. And so we are very deliberate about how the workflow is and what components you need in your workflow. So it's not traditional workflow symbols that are used in their meeting. We have our own because they're much more deliberate and much more focused on you know, the bespoke nature of workflow within business organizations. So, you know, get a demonstration of workflow with us again, link below. Okay, security. Security in DOCOVA is very detailed. For an instance, so the big square in the middle here, the big rectangle in the middle, the instance is an instance of DOCOVA running on a server. And then Workspace. So the Workspace is the interface you interact with applications and widgets in DOCOVA. And then on your Workspace, you have applications. In your applications, you have records and documents. On your documents, you could have sections and fields, right? And so there's security across all of those things. Sections of documents, you know, fields, specific fields and documents, right, in the applications themselves, and so on. So there's all kinds of security at every level. On the left-hand side, you can see that we have security levels from no access and anonymous access to readers, authors, editors, designers, managers, and administrators. And so check out the video below for more information about that. On the right-hand side is just a depiction of all of the directory services that DOCOVA integrates with, right? So Microsoft 365, so Azure Active Directory, DOCOVA's got its own directory services itself, so you could have external people, for example, in your directory and not intermixed with your corporate directory. It can also integrate with Domino directory. In fact, if you're migrating off Notes and Domino, as you move applications over, you can have people still authenticating on your Domino directory to DOCOVA and your Azure as you move them over into the new environment. And really any LDAP, OAuth, SAML scenario, also things like MFA and single sign-on, right? All this multi-level security is integrated. So if you have multi-level security that you're using with Azure Active Directory, for example, works, integrates just fine. Mobile support. So DOCOVA applications can also be mobile applications for your phone or tablet to make your apps mobiles fast and easy. There's no need to deploy your applications to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. There's just one DOCOVA mobile app. It is iOS and Android versions. And so the applications that you deploy are deployed through that DOCOVA app. That means, and that's why you don't have to create a mobile app and put it on the Apple or the Google Store. It just, you just integrate the DOCOVA mobile app, and any changes or any apps that you deploy are instantly available. And any updates that you do to an application becomes instantly available. So it's super easy. to deploy applications in mobile devices. You can select your workspace presentation interface or your smartphone. More about that in other videos below, because there's a lot to talk about there too. You can mobilize your legacy applications. So you can hook it up so the data isn't actually in the application. The data can reside in some other legacy application. And so there can be a communication. And so to the user, it looks like they're using this DOCOVA application with all the data and updating the data and creating even new data. But it could be all updating into a different legacy application. But since DOCOVA applications are easy to turn into mobile applications, you could now, create an application, make it mobile from a DOCOVA, and integrate it with your backend legacy system, right? So now you're mobilizing your legacy systems, without having to do anything new, no new mobile software or anything like that. You could just do it right here, right as I say here in the bottom, a couple of points, full CRUD capabilities, so the ability to create, read, update, and delete the information in that legacy system. The data doesn't have to, like I said, reside in DOCOVA, and you can combine legacy system data with DOCOVA data. So you could have an application in DOCOVA, have some of the information that you want in the DOCOVA application and some of it in your legacy application, right? And mobilize that if you want. So, boom, it's just unlimited and super easy to do, right? So you're not getting into all these extra technologies for your mobile apps. You can just use one place and easily create apps / integrate with some other things to mobilize them. Something that would be very difficult to do otherwise. Microsoft integration, you should get in contact with us to talk about Microsoft integration. There's videos below, but we certainly run on Azure. Deep integration for sure with DOCOVA integration with Azure Active Directory and Active Directory, Outlook Exchange integration, so you can bring content from DOCOVA Apps into Outlook, or from Outlook or Exchange into DOCOVA applications. So if you want to bring in a mail message as support documentation to something like in your CRM or something like that, or if there's an attachment in a mail message in your Exchange mailbox in your inbox or whatever, you can bring that attachment, go into your application and get that attachment from Outlook and so forth, right? So from those user type of applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, anything with an API on it. And the thing too with Outlook is you can export information from the data tables or the views in DOCOVA. You can export information. You can import Excel spreadsheets, records of information from a spreadsheet or from a CSV file. You can also create applications from an Excel spreadsheet. So you could drag and drop an Excel spreadsheet into DOCOVA and then create an application from it. So if you want to get off of spreadsheets and get into applications, it's a great way to do it through DOCOVA. File attachments, there's edit in place. So one great thing about DOCOVA is that you don't have to detach a file and edit it and then delete it from there and make sure the new copy doesn't overwrite the old one and stuff like that or whatever, right? You just have to edit the file in place. You can make your changes, and when you save it, those changes are automatically made in the file attachment, like a Word document in a record, for example. So there's no need to fool around with detaching, make your mods, save it as version 2, reattach it, that kind of thing. MS365, so you can launch DOCOVA applications individually out of the application chiclets in your MS365 environment, because you can run DOCOVA applications in a standalone or kiosk mode. And so you can create applications in DOCOVA, but serve them up through your Office 365 or your Microsoft 365 interface. OneDrive integration, Microsoft Dataverse integration, also Power Automate, Power Query. So, best thing is to just talk with us, have a chat, have a discussion so we can find out what your requirements are on this front. SharePoint integration. and we could discuss in more detail if you're looking for RPA or whatever it is, because this is a big subject too, and we have videos in our channel that will link up to this video as well. DevOps. So user logging at the instance level, the application level, document record level, customizable, so you can create what things that you want to audit track in terms of usage by users. You can export applications, of course, import those applications, which is, so many uses for that. Find the video below. Deploy, update apps across dev UAT to production, which I was talking about before. That's the ability to make changes to an application that's in the development environment and then easily deploy that to a user acceptance testing environment. So DOCOVA is smart enough to say, hey, is this already on this environment or in this environment? If it is, I'm going to update it. If it's not, I'm going to create it new. And then you can push it to a production environment, for example. So dev UAT production. Not everybody has that. Sometimes their dev environment and production environment is the same. Sometimes they just have a dev UAT and then user acceptance testing environment and then one production environment, so they're only pushing it once. Up to you. All companies are different. You can create apps from templates. So we have the concept of application templates so that you can use that template and that design and functionality and make copies of it to create several applications. Some of our customers use them like for project templates. So they have an application that they use for a certain type of project, like building something. And then all of the people that are working on that project and stuff come to that application. And then they start another project, right? Building another building or whatever, and that new application the address of the new building is the name of the application, and they created off that project template that has everything they need to project manage that, the building of that building, and invite all the people who need access to that project, for example, the project managers and everything, architects, what have you. And you can update the design from the template. So you can go to an application and say, update my design with whatever template I was created with, those kind of things. And prohibit, design, replace. So if you created an application with a template and then you change just one thing about that application, so that even though it was based on that template and you want all the other design components to remain the same, but you've changed a couple of the design components and you want to keep those, you can go into the application and say, hey, prohibit the design replace from overwriting my changes. And so you can still update with that template and still maintain the specific changes that you made. So it's very flexible that way. Kiosk Mode. Okay, so you can run DOCOVA Apps standalone without the DOCOVA Workspace. Launch it from your website, SharePoint, App Tile, 365, as I talked, any web page. You can use it in conjunction with anonymous access. That means somebody could come to the application as a user, and then you can have a process for registering them so that they then come and sign in. You can allow them to authenticate with the Google or Facebook, so it's up to your IT department and your security and how you set up DOCOVA and how to implement those kind of things. But those all exist in DOCOVA. And examples of where you might want to share DOCOVA apps in Kiosk Mode is with your customers, suppliers, auditors, just the public in general. For we have a city who deploys bylaws and things like that have been passed out onto the website through that. And so it's a way for internal people to have all of their applications in front of them on their workspace that they use day in, day out. But also you could be interfacing with that one application that you use that's actually also hanging off of your website as a standalone application that your auditors or your suppliers or whatever interact with. Right, so very flexible from that point of view. Directory has directory services, so DOCOVA has its own directory in it for authentication purposes. So, for example, you could have your own internal directory for your own employees internally at your company. But if you're, got auditors that are, that are coming in, or designers, suppliers, subcontractors or whatever that are coming in, you can share an application with them separately. So to you, it's part of your suite of applications that you use every day in the DOCOVA interface, but they're using it through your website. So really great. And you can sign them up and manage them in the directory, the DOCOVA directory, so that they're not mixed in with the users of your directory for authentication purposes. Like I said, you can integrate with other directories, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, Domino, Facebook, Google. Can manage having users accessing applications from multiple directories simultaneously, right? So you could have some people in a Azure Active Directory, some people in a Domino directory, both accessing the same application on the same instance of DOCOVA. That's very useful for people migrating off the Notes and Domino environment, because as you move them over, they might be still on the Domino directory and you haven't gotten them over yet, but they're still sharing an application with a group of people that have moved to the new environment. And so in that case, you can have some people in this environment, some people in this environment still using that same application on DOCOVA. And like I said, support anonymous access. Okay, searching. Okay, searching is very deep in DOCOVA. So you can search across all your applications and libraries in DOCOVA, or just search against selected libraries and applications. It's full text indexed, and so that means that all fields, all rich text in records or documents, all file attachments like Word documents, Excel spreadsheets or whatever, all those things that are in the system are all indexed and searchable. So if you type in one word like bank, it'll find bank across everything that you have access to. If you don't have access to it, of course, it's not going to find it. Okay. Views also have searching built in, so you can search for documents in a view. There's also filtering, dynamic filtering capabilities in views built right in. Search, it's very okay. So again, check out the videos below around searching and those capabilities. Business analytics. Okay, easily integrate your data in your applications to create charts, right? Easy and straightforward to use. So the ability for you to create line charts and bar charts and pie charts and so on, donut charts, in terms of creating an application. So how do you do that? Typically, you have to have a reporting tool. It can be a fairly complex process, but we've really simplified that process so that users can create an application, and then it's very straightforward how you hook up your X and Y axis and what you want on those charts. And so you can integrate with live application data and leverage that stuff in widgets in your workspace and stuff too. So people can create these things in their applications and then sort of pull them out or reach in and get them for their widgets and their dashboards, so that when you come in the morning, you could have like an overview dashboard that is pulled from your different applications through charting, through business analytics. Collaboration tools. So DOCOVA has built-in instant messaging components. So we do have an instant messaging component that can be leveraged by customers for their own applications. You can create, you probably have, you're probably using Teams or something, but there's other reasons why you might want to use your own internal messaging component for applications, or you don't have with external people or whatever. Everybody's not on the same messaging component, right? Not everybody's on Teams, not everybody's on the same messaging. So you could build your own in your own application and use that. Also, there's built-in open source video conferencing if you wanted to put that in. And we have an application called Team Talk in the store that demonstrates those things, so you can kind of see it. Internet of Things, I talked about a little bit. Video below, check it out. DOCOVA acts as a central message hub for bidirectional communication between DOCOVA and IoT, and there's so many things you can do. Kind of cool. Check out the videos. We're adding more over time, so you'll see them come out every now and again. But there's so many ways to use the IoT stuff, and it's kind of I like the electronics part of it too. So check those out. It's kind of fun if you're a bit of a nerdo. Actions can be triggered too. So that's a great thing, is that since there's so much functionality in DOCOVA, just around workflow and messaging and stuff that you would build into your applications, you don't have to subscribe to another service at the Azure hub or the Microsoft hub or whatever other hubs that you might have to subscribe to, and then go in and create all those tables and things like that. In DOCOVA, it's super easy to create a table and just start integrating this stuff. And so check out the videos that are linked below. Okay, libraries. So DOCOVA has this concept, so we have applications and we have libraries. The reason why we have libraries is because we came from the enterprise content management world. And so we know a lot about document management, our document management capabilities, the document lifecycle, automated version control, folders and subfolder structure, records management, your ability to define document types, your ability to push public file sharing, and so on. So we have a rich document management interface in DOCOVA. API, formula language, and object model. So DOCOVA as a low-code solution facilitates the needs of beginner developers and no-code, citizen developers, so that as your users might start to get better at developing applications, then you can start introducing them to the formula language and command language. So it's not full-blown development with the API. It's easier thing. It's like Excel formulas, in that there's a certain level of super userness that they can start using those things, and so we're not handcuffing. It's really a great way to help people who are beginners just create things with no code, and then they can graduate to a little bit more complex formula language. So formulas that calculate business days or what month it is and stuff like that, nice and easily for you. Versus pro developers, where they can use our full-blown object model and our full-blown API to do pretty much anything you can imagine in the front and back end of DOCOVA. So full-blown object model. Okay, external system integration, and we talked a little bit about this, but you can integrate with external applications, any like SQL Server application you might have that's legacy, SAP, and so on. We've integrated full CRUD even from our mobile interfaces to those back-end systems. The application is not in DOCOVA, but DOCOVA Apps. So I talked about this before, where you create the application in DOCOVA, but for some or all of the data might be in the legacy application somewhere else. Very powerful. This is a great way for you to sort of mobilize those older systems and stuff like that very quickly. And that's it for now. Okay, so next steps. You know what? Let's have a conversation. This is just an overview. Hopefully you're like, wow, this is more than I expected. And there's so much more to look at, so much more to demo, and really get down to the best way to do things with customers is to get to what you require, right? What are your requirements? What is it that you need? What is that application you're thinking about that you'd like to create? And you could get started, right? So once again, what I always am pushing is that you can get started. You can spin up an instance of DOCOVA in our cloud right now. You could start creating an application today and have it done by tomorrow and start using it, right? And so it's just that easy. So you know what? Get in contact with us. Have a conversation for 15 minutes or a half an hour or an hour. Let us demonstrate the actual application for you with what you need, and you can get started. And check out the links below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.